In a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Munich, the evening was still. A black Mercedes-Benz slowly rolled down the narrow street, its polished surface reflecting the fading glow of the sunset. The luxury car stopped in front of a small, worn-out house, its walls weathered by time. Curtains twitched as curious neighbors peeked out, whispering among themselves. What business could such a car and such a well-dressed man possibly have here? The driver's door opened, and a tall man stepped out, his suit pressed to perfection, a leather briefcase in hand. His confident footsteps echoed on the stone path as he approached the old wooden door. He paused, took a breath, and rang the bell. Inside, Greta Muller, a weary waitress in her late 60s, froze when she heard the chime. Life had not been kind to her. She lived modestly, her home filled with second-hand furniture and memories of long days spent serving strangers. With cautious steps, she opened the door and looked up at the man before her. "Good evening, Mrs. Muller," he said, his voice warm and respectful. "My name is David Kaufman. I'm an attorney. I've come here because of something you did many years ago, something you may not even remember." Greta frowned, puzzled. She had lived a simple life, doing what she could to help others, but never expected anyone to come back for her. The man smiled gently. "Perhaps it's best if I remind you with a story." The memory carried Greta back nearly 2 decades. She was younger then, working double shifts at a small restaurant to make ends meet. Winter had been harsh that year. The streets were covered in snow, and the wind bit cruelly at anyone caught outside too long. One evening, while clearing tables near the back door, she noticed 2 thin figures crouched near the restaurant's trash bins. They were boys, one perhaps 12, the other no older than 7. Their clothes were ragged, their faces pale from cold and hunger. The restaurant manager spotted them first. "Get out of here, you filthy rats!" he shouted, waving a broom. The boys scattered, vanishing into the shadows, but Greta's heart ached. Their wide, desperate eyes lingered in her mind as she finished her shift. Later that night, she packed some leftover bread, soup, and a piece of cake into a small bag. Ignoring the risk of her manager finding out, she walked through the snowy streets until she found them again, huddled together at a bus stop, shivering violently. She approached slowly, afraid they might run. "It's all right," she whispered, kneeling beside them. "I brought you something." The older boy's eyes widened as she handed him the food. The younger one's hands trembled as he clutched the soup, inhaling its warmth as though it were the greatest gift in the world. "Why are you helping us?" the older boy asked, his voice hoarse. Greta smiled sadly. "Because no child should go to sleep hungry, and because sometimes all we need is someone to show us kindness." Tears welled up in the little one's eyes. He whispered through cracked lips, "You are our angel." Greta never saw them again after that night. She went back to her routine, working, struggling, surviving, thinking perhaps the boys had disappeared forever, swallowed by a world too cruel for the innocent. Now, standing at her doorstep, Greta's eyes widened as David Kaufman opened his briefcase. He pulled out a faded photograph. 2 boys, dirty and skinny, sitting on a bench with a bag of food in their hands. Greta gasped, covering her mouth. "It was you," she whispered. David nodded. "Yes, I was the older boy. And that night, you saved us. You didn't just feed us. You gave us hope when we had none. My little brother and I survived because of you." His voice trembled, thick with emotion. "We promised each other that if we ever made it out of that darkness, we would find you and thank you." Tears streamed down Greta's cheeks as the memories crashed back with overwhelming force. David continued, his tone firm but kind. "My brother couldn't be here tonight. He lives abroad now. But we never forgot you, not for a single day. And now, we want to give back the kindness you gave us." He handed her an envelope. Greta hesitated, her fingers trembling as she opened it. Inside were papers, legal documents, and a letter. "You don't have to worry about working anymore," David explained softly. "We've arranged for you to have financial security for the rest of your life. You will never struggle again." Greta broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. David placed a gentle hand on hers. "Yes, you do. Because sometimes a single act of kindness can change everything. You saved us, Mrs. Mueller. And now, it's our turn to save you." That night, as the neighbors continued to whisper about the mysterious visitor and the luxury car outside, Greta sat at her table, overwhelmed with gratitude. Her heart, once weary from years of hardship, felt light again. She realized something profound. Kindness never disappears. Even the smallest gesture can echo across years, across lives, and return in ways one could never imagine. And as the Mercedes-Benz drove away into the night, Greta Mueller understood that the meal she had once shared in secret had sown seeds of hope that had grown into something far greater than she could have ever dreamed. Heinrich von Westphalen was wrongly accused of fraud, and the family fortune was frozen for months. Their mother suffered a breakdown and was taken to a psychiatric clinic. Marcus and Johann were sent to distant relatives, but nobody wanted the scandal. Soon, they ended up in an orphanage, only to run away weeks later. They were helpless on the streets, used to luxury, but now starving. Greta's small act of kindness was the only thing that kept them alive. What she never knew, the boys recognized everything she risked. They secretly observed how she stayed late after work, cooked for them, and endured her boss's insults. David pulled out an old notebook. Inside were the boys' handwritten notes. One read, "January 15th, 2008. The kind woman came again. She brought us soup and bread, even though her shoes were broken. Why does she help us when she has so little herself?" Another said, "February 15th. We saw her sell her watch. That night she brought us extra food. She thinks we don't notice, but we see everything. One day, we'll buy her a better watch." Greta wept. She had believed her sacrifices went unnoticed, but the boys had remembered every single act. 3 months later, their wealthy aunt in New York found them and took them to America. Yet before they left Munich, their last words were, "We must find the angel woman." Years passed. Marcus studied computer science at MIT, building a company that develops software for humanitarian aid. Johann became a chef and opened soup kitchens for the poor. Both credited Greta's kindness as their guiding star. They searched for her tirelessly, hiring investigators, placing ads, contacting restaurants, and now they had finally found her. With tears in her eyes, Greta asked, "But why so much effort? It was just a meal." David smiled. "No, you didn't just feed 2 boys. You saved 2 lives and inspired everything they became." Then he revealed the truth. Marcus and Johann were waiting outside. When they entered, grown men now, Greta instantly recognized the same warmth in their eyes. Overwhelmed, they embraced. "You gave us hope when we had none," Marcus said. "You were our anchor. Every day in America, we asked ourselves, what would Greta do?" They handed her documents. Her house was now fully paid off. A trust fund would give her 5,000 euros every month. And together they had created the Greta Mueller Foundation for Street Children, starting with 10 million euros. The first center would open across from the old restaurant where it all began. Even Herr Klaus, her former boss, had changed, donating his savings and dedicating his life to the cause. Today, years later, the Greta Mueller Center for Street Children serves thousands of meals across Germany. Greta, once a forgotten waitress, is now a beloved grandma to hundreds of children. Her simple act of kindness had grown into a movement, proving that even the smallest gesture can echo across generations and change the world.